The city of Virelle Haven never sleeps, but it breathes differently depending on where you stand. In the upper district, the skyline is a cathedral of glass and ambition. Private towers catch the sun like they own it. Cars move in silence below floodlit archways. Everything is curated. Everything is intentional. Even the shadows fall the right way. But below the elevated rail that cuts through the city like a scar, the lower district exists in permanent half-light. Here, the streets are layered with condensation and old sound. Neon signs bleed color across wet pavement. Generators hum from behind grated windows. The buildings lean against each other like they've given up standing alone. And here, before the city fully wakes, a girl moves through it like she's part of the background. She always has. Seryn Halvane, 22, no family address on record, 3 jobs, all cash. A room the size of a question above a shuttered laundry on Creswick Lane. She does not complain about this. She does not think about what she deserves. She thinks only about what she owes, what she earns, and how not to be remembered by anyone. This morning, she is on her first shift, a pre-dawn food stall in the market quarter, owned by a woman named Opal who asks no questions and pays in folded bills left under a ceramic jar. Seryn cuts fruit, wipes counters, and watches the city come alive in increments. A delivery drone whirs overhead. A man in an upper district uniform walks too fast through the lower streets, pretending not to look at anything. Children in gray school jackets run past the stall in a small, loud cluster. She watches all of it, not with longing, with precision. She has learned what the upper district does to people from down here who want too much. She has seen it. She has felt its edges once, a long time ago, and she chose then to want nothing that could be taken. But something about this morning feels different. A feeling she cannot name presses at the back of her ribs. She shakes it off. She stacks the fruit, folds her apron crease flat, and prepares for the rest of the day like every other day in Virelle Haven's lower district. Unnoticed, unremarkable, safe. She doesn't know yet that her name is already on a list. She doesn't know that by nightfall, someone will say it in a room full of the most powerful people in the city, and she doesn't know that one of them will refuse to let it be corrected. By mid-morning, Seryn has moved through 2 districts and 4 hours of her day, without anyone looking at her twice. This is the achievement. Her second shift is in the filing hall of a mid-tier logistics company at the edge of the commercial quarter, a gray building, full of gray people moving gray papers. She sorts, she scans, she answers nothing that isn't asked. She has a 3rd shift tonight, a cleaning contract in an office complex, 2 streets from the lower district boundary line. Between now and then, she has a gap, 90 minutes. She spends them at the only place in the lower district where you can sit without being asked to buy something. The public records alcove outside the district hall, a roof, 2 benches, and a bulletin board that nobody updates anymore. Except today, something has been updated. A white card, printed clean in a font too expensive for this neighborhood, pinned slightly crooked at the board's corner. Virelle Haven Civic Welfare Program. Annual sponsorship selection registered candidates. Lower District Ward List Cycle 17. Below it, a long printed column of names. Most of the girls around here know what this is. They speak about it in halves, half hoping, half afraid. It is the Naming Gala. No one calls it that officially. Officially, it is called the Civic Welfare Program. But everyone knows what the sponsorship really means. Once selected, a girl from the lower district is assigned a ward contract, legally binding, civil court registered. She is placed under the protection of an upper district family or individual, housed, provided for, presented. Some girls choose it willingly, desperate for anything better. Some girls come back different. Something missing in the eyes. Some girls don't come back at all. Seryn has never allowed herself to be registered. She has moved carefully every year, made sure her name stayed out of every census, every district sweep, every welfare list. She scans the board out of habit. She stops breathing. 3rd name from the bottom, Halvane. Seryn Lower District, Creswick Lane Cycle 17 confirmed. She reads it again, then again. Her name is on the Naming Gala list. Her hands stay still. She has trained them to, but her pulse does not. 300 meters above street level, the upper district runs on its own kind of silence. The tower at the apex of Valcairn Holdings, 42 floors of dark, glass and deliberate architecture, reflects the sky back at itself like it has nothing to prove. Inside, on the 38th floor, a meeting is already 20 minutes past its scheduled end. 8 men sit around a long onyx table. Lawyers, associates, district advisors, and 2 men who have no official titles but whose presence accounts for more than everyone else in the room combined. One of them is Rhett Valcairn. He is standing at the window, back to the room, looking out over the city as if he finds it mildly uninteresting. 28, tall, broad through the shoulders, lean and precise through the frame, milky pale skin, short black hair, immaculately cut, not a strand off, steel blue eyes. He is wearing a perfectly tailored black suit, black dress shirt, dark tie. No jewelry, no excess. He looks like wealth that stopped trying to prove itself 3 generations ago. The gala list goes to print tomorrow, says one of the lawyers, voice careful. Your name hasn't been submitted for selection. Rhett does not turn around. I know. Silence. The Dane arrangement still stands then. He holds. Dane holds nothing, Rhett says. His voice is quiet, unhurried. The kind of quiet that makes a room pay attention without raising itself. He coordinates. That's the limit of what he does. The lawyer adjusts his collar. The gala is Saturday. The list is. I'll review the list myself. The lawyer blinks. That's not. Rhett turns. And the sentence dies. There is something about his gaze not heated, not theatrical, just a certain quality of attention. As if he is deciding, very calmly, what is useful and what is not. Is there something else? He says. There isn't. The meeting ends. After the room clears, Kale Draveno, mid-20s, pale ivory skin, dark auburn brown hair cut close on the sides, dark brown eyes, wearing a black structured jacket, steps from the side wall where he has been standing, motionless for 40 minutes. You're going to the gala, Kale says. Not a question. Rhett buttons his jacket. Have a car ready. Seryn doesn't panic. She doesn't allow it. Instead, she does what she always does when something goes wrong. She works through it with the same methodical calm she applies to everything. She locates the problem. She identifies the action. She moves. First, she goes to the district registration office. The registration office is a low-ceilinged room with fluorescent lights and a clerk behind protective glass who looks like she has heard every variation of every problem and resolved none of them personally. I need to be removed from the welfare cycle list, Seryn says. There's been an error. The clerk types without looking up. Name? Halvane, Seryn. More typing. You're confirmed for cycle 17. I didn't register. I've never registered. Secondary registration is permitted under Section 4 of the Civic Welfare Act. Eligible residents may be nominated by a certified district observer. Seryn goes still. Who nominated me? The clerk looks up for the first time. Something shifts behind her eyes, a faint discomfort, like she recognizes she is in territory she'd rather not be. That information is confidential under gala protocol. I want to decline the placement. Declined candidates remain on the list as reserve. Then I want to withdraw entirely. Withdrawal requires a signed release from the nominating party. Seryn stares at her. The nominating party is confidential. The clerk holds her gaze for exactly 1 second, then looks back at her screen. The gala is Saturday. Attendance is expected. Seryn walks out. She stands on the pavement outside the district office and breathes. The city moves around her, carts, voices, the distant whine of a freight drone. She has been in the city long enough to understand what just happened. The door wasn't just closed. It was locked from a side she cannot reach. She pulls her jacket tighter and walks fast. thinking of every person she knows, every exit she has calculated, every emergency she has quietly prepared for over years of careful, invisible living. None of them account for this. She has 1 day and 20 hours. That night, Seryn goes to Merrick's salon. She hates that she does, but she is out of clean options. Merrick operates out of the back of a corner, currency exchange on Halvard Street, a narrow, amber-lit room that smells of paper and old smoke, packed with files and favor ledgers and the quiet, accumulated weight of things that should not officially exist. He is a broker, not of goods, of information, of access, of documents that slide past official eyes. He has been in the lower district longer than most buildings. He is also the only person in Virelle Haven who knew Seryn before she became Seryn Halvane. When she steps through the side door, he is already reaching for something under the counter. Not a weapon, a glass of water, which he pushes toward her without offering it. "You're on the list," he says. She looks at him. "I heard this morning." He won't meet her eyes. "I was going to find you." "Who nominated me?" "I don't know." He says it too fast. "Merrick." "I genuinely don't know the name. I know it came from inside the gala structure, not a district observer. Someone with access to the internal list management. That's not supposed to be possible from outside the gala committee." Seryn is quiet for a moment. "Can you get me off it?" Merrick exhales. He rubs one hand over his graying, thinning hair, and for the first time since she walked in, he looks at her directly. And what she sees in his face is not his usual calculated neutrality. It is fear. "I've been trying to keep you invisible for 3 years, he says quietly. "Adjusting records, flagging you out of sweeps. You think you've been lucky. You haven't been lucky." Seryn stares at him. "Then what have I been?" He shakes his head. "I don't know who placed you on this list, but I know it wasn't random. And I know I'm not powerful enough to get you off it." He pauses. "Nobody in this district is." The amber light flickers once. Seryn picks up the glass of water, drinks it slowly, sets it down. "Then I go to the gala," she says. Merrick looks up sharply. "If I disappear before it, they send collection. If I go and I'm not selected, I'm returned to reserve. If I'm selected, I have 24 hours before the contract." Finalists. She keeps her voice flat. "That's a window." Merrick watches her. "You're going to try to run from inside." She doesn't answer, but she doesn't not answer either. The dress arrives the next morning. No knock, no messenger she sees. Just a matte black box with a silver clasp left outside her door on Crestwick Lane. A small card tucked beneath the ribbon. Mandatory attire. Cycle 17 attendees. Report to terrace level, Valemont Hall, Saturday, 20 o'clock. Seryn opens the box. The dress is deep midnight blue, floor-length, structured bodice, clean lines, thin straps. Not the most extravagant thing she has ever seen, but on a girl from Crestwick Lane, it is an entirely different language. She holds it for a long moment, then hangs it on the back of her door and does not look at it again until Saturday. On Saturday evening, she looks at it for a long time. She is not someone who has ever thought much about how she appears. Appearance is camouflage. Camouflage is practical. But the dress changes something when she puts it on. It fits precisely, like it was made with dimensions someone shouldn't have had. She leaves her dark brown hair down. No styling, no extra. She owns a single pair of low-heeled shoes, dark gray, clean. She looks in the small mirror above her wash basin. The girl who looks back is not unnoticeable anymore. She hates that. She takes the transit line to the upper district boundary alone, shows the attendance card that arrived with the box, and is escorted from there by a private car she is not permitted to refuse. The city rises around her as they drive higher. Glass light, architecture that knows it is being watched. She watches it back. Her jaw stays set. Her hands stay loose in her lap. She does not let herself think about what happens after tonight, only about what she needs to observe. Valemont Hall was built 100 years ago. by a family whose name no longer appears in public records. It stands at the highest curve of the upper district's oldest arc, a structure of pale stone, arched glass, and iron detailing that manages to look both ancient and deliberate. Tonight it is lit from below, columns washed in warm ivory light, the entrance lined with staff in black and the kind of silence that money buys. Seryn steps out of the car. The air up here is different, cleaner, colder, and charged with the particular tension of people who have agreed not to say certain things out loud. She moves through the entrance behind 3 other girls she doesn't know. They are all from the lower districts. She can tell by the way they hold their clutches too tightly and look up at the ceiling a fraction too long. Inside, a receiving hall of cream marble, mirror-paneled walls, chandeliers. A string quartet playing something measured and elegant in the far corner. Staff moving with trained invisibility. Guests in black and white moving with trained visibility. The attendees, the selectors, are not what Seryn expected. They are not loud. They are not theatrical. They are the kind of powerful that doesn't need to announce itself. Men in dark suits, women in structured gowns. Conversations conducted at low volume with sustained eye contact. Seryn keeps moving through the room, cataloging. Exits. 4. 1 main, 1 service corridor to the left. 1 terrace access at the far end. 1 stairwell behind the east panel. Cameras. 7 visible. Likely more she hasn't found. Staff ratio. High. Her window is narrower than she thought. Then a hush moves through the room. Not sudden. Gradual, like a tide pulling back before something arrives. Seryn turns and sees Rhett Valcairn walk through the entrance. He is taller than she registered from. Descriptions broader. The black suit is immaculate. The steel blue eyes scan the room once, not nervously, not curiously, but the way you scan something you already own, and then settle into a measured stillness. The conversations around him don't stop. They lower. Everyone in the room adjusts slightly without meaning to. Seryn turns back around. She files him under dangerous, avoid. She does not know yet that he has already been told her name. At precisely 9 o'clock, the string quartet stops. The room orients itself toward a low stage at the hall's center, not theatrical. Just a raised platform with a single standing lectern and a man beside it who Seryn does not recognize. She recognizes him by now. Dame Virelle, 50s, lean and angular in the face, pale skin with sharp cheekbones, silver white hair slicked back, gray eyes. An old money dark suit with a handkerchief folded just so. He stands at the lectern with the ease of someone who has done this many times and enjoys none of it, and all of it simultaneously. Cycle 17, he says. His voice carries perfectly without effort. The selections as registered. Seryn is standing near the eastern wall. She finds the nearest exit with her eyes and keeps it there in peripheral vision. The names begin. Each name called means a girl steps forward. Each name called means a man in the room moves, approaches, is introduced. Some of it looks almost normal, a greeting, a handshake, a conversation. But Seryn watches the girls' hands, their posture, the precise moment when the expression of hope shifts into something she can't name. She counts her way down the list. 4 names from the bottom. 3, 2. She steadies her breathing. Halvane, Seryn. She steps forward. She has decided to step forward to be visible for exactly as long as required. Identify her assigned selector, and then find the service corridor before the contract cards are distributed. Dame Virelle glances at his list. The room is quiet. His eyes pause, a fraction of a second longer than the others. Halvane, Seryn assigned selector. He stops. Seryn watches his face. Something is wrong. He looks up, across the room, and Seryn follows his gaze to where Rhett Valcairn is already looking at her. There appears to be Dame begins. I'll take her. 2 words. Low, unhurried, completely final. The room does not gasp. It simply recalibrates. The way a room recalibrates when something more significant than expected has just occurred. Dane's jaw tightens. Mr. Valcairn, you're not. registered as a selector for cycle 17. Yes. Rhett doesn't raise his voice. He steps forward slowly, deliberately, eyes still on Seryn. I am now. He reaches the lectern. He takes the selection card from Dane's hand without looking at him. Dane's fingers release it. Seryn watches this. She watches Rhett Valcairn sign the card. She watches him turn to face her fully, and she thinks one clear, clean thought. Every exit in this building just closed. No one intervenes. That is the thing Seryn keeps returning to in the car afterward, the sheer architectural completeness of it. No one intervened. Not one voice in that room said, wait or stop, or this isn't right. They watched Rhett Valcairn sign a card that transferred her legal ward status to him, and they adjusted their expressions by approximately 2 degrees. And then the room moved on. She is in the back of a car she didn't choose, moving through a city she doesn't control, beside a man who doesn't speak. Rhett sits on the opposite side of the rear seat. He has not looked at her since the hall. He is looking out the window with an expression that suggests he is thinking about something entirely unrelated to the fact that he has just legally acquired a person. Seryn sits still. She is calculating. The ward contract has a 24-hour review window, she remembered Merrick saying that. 24 hours before the civil court registers it as binding. She needs to reach a civil filing office, submit a challenge, or find whoever nominated her before the review window, Rhett says. She doesn't react. You're thinking about it, still looking out the window. The 24-hour challenge period. Am I? You have a good stillness, he says. Most people telegraph. You don't, but you've been calculating since the lectern. Seryn looks at him. This is the first time she looks at him directly since the hall, and it is the first time she understands why the room lowered its voice when he entered. It is not what he projects, it is what he doesn't project. There is nothing performing in his face, no cruelty to display, no warmth to offer, just attention, focused, patient, and complete. The challenge period requires a co-signature from the nominating party, he says. You know that. The nominating party is confidential, correct? She holds his gaze. Then I want to know what I've been pulled into, she says. Something in his expression shifts, barely, the way light shifts when a cloud moves. Not a change, exactly. A recognition. I know, he says. That's not an answer. No, he agrees. It isn't. The car moves on in silence. Through the window, the upper district rises around her, glass and architecture and light that has nowhere left to go but up. She has 23 hours and 40 minutes. The residence is not what she expected. Seryn had built an image in her mind on the drive over. Gates, staff at attention, the theatrical excess of someone who wants you to know they have won, the kind of wealth that performs itself. What she gets instead is a narrow building on a quiet upper district, street 7 floors, of dark stone and tall windows, understated almost to the point of severity, with nothing on the exterior that announces what it is or who lives here. Inside, high ceilings, hardwood floors, rooms that are large without being theatrical. Deep shelving lines one wall of the entrance hall, full of books stacked practically rather than displayed. Low lamps, no chandeliers. It does not feel like a cage. It is designed not to. A member of staff, a woman in her 50s, pale and composed, shows Seryn to a room on the 5th floor without ceremony or explanation. The room is large, clean, a window looking out over the upper district roofline. There is a wardrobe with clothing in it, her sizes. Seryn looks at the wardrobe for a long time. She does not touch it. She sits on the edge of the bed in her midnight blue gala dress and maps the floor plan from what she saw on the way up. Stairwell access, window ledge depth, distance to the street. There is a quiet knock. Cale Draveno opens the door without waiting for an answer, which tells her everything about his function here. He stands in the doorway in his black structured jacket, dark auburn brown hair, dark eyes moving over the room once before settling on her. There's food downstairs if you want it, he says. She doesn't answer. He studies her with the particular patience of someone who has been asked to watch people for a living. You're mapping the room, he says. She looks at him. Third window from the left on the south wall is sealed, he says. Maintenance issue. The east stairwell key locks from the second floor down after midnight. He pauses. That's not me telling you anything. That's me telling you to stop. He leaves. The door stays open. Seryn looks at the open door for a long time. She doesn't move, but she counts the seconds until dawn. Morning arrives with quiet authority. By the time Seryn has changed into the clothes she chose from the wardrobe, a dark gray knit top, slim black trousers, flat ankle boots, which she tells herself means nothing. Someone has left a printed document outside her room. Single page, clean font, arrangement terms, ward contract provisional, Valcairn residence, upper district. She reads it standing in the hallway. She reads it again. The terms are precise and comprehensive. She is not permitted to leave the residence without approved escort. Her communication access calls, messaging, external network, is routed through the house system and available upon reasonable request. Her personal schedule is to be submitted each morning and is subject to modification. Her previous employment is suspended for the duration of the contract. She is not permitted to re-enter the lower district. She turns the page over. Nothing on the back. She folds it and carries it downstairs. Rhett is in the ground floor study, a room lined floor to ceiling with dark shelving, a wide desk, a tall window. He is standing at the window with a coffee cup when she enters, still dressed for the day already. Black suit trousers, dark charcoal shirt, no tie. He looks immaculate in the way of someone for whom effort is invisible. She places the document on his desk. This removes everything, she says. He turns. My jobs, my access, my ability to verify my own legal status. She keeps her voice even. This is not protection. This is isolation. He holds her gaze, says nothing. Why me? She asks. He looks at her with that same focused, unreadable attention. That question has a complicated answer. Give me the simple version. Your name was placed on the list. I needed to be the one to take you. She waits. He doesn't add anything. Needed, she repeats. Not chose. Both, he says. The word lands strangely. Not a softness in it, just a precision. Like something stated for accuracy rather than comfort. She picks up the document from his desk and leaves the room. She has 12 hours left in the review window. She intends to use every one of them. She does not find a way out of the review window. The clock passes its 24 hours, and she watches it happen from the 5th floor window of a house that still doesn't feel real. And she files the feeling somewhere deep and sealed and saves it for later. The contract is now registered, binding, legal. Seryn Halvane, lower district, is now a ward of Rhett Valcairn, upper district. Civil court record number available upon request to parties with standing. She has no standing. By the third day, she has mapped the entire house. She has noted every camera, every staff schedule, every supply delivery, every car rotation. By the fourth day, she has begun against her own intentions, noticing the texture of the place, the way the library smells of old paper and cedar, the view from the east hallway at dusk, when the upper district catches the light and becomes briefly, involuntarily beautiful. She is cataloging exits. She is not settling. She tells herself this firmly when Isolde Varn arrives on day 5. Isolde does not knock. She is announced by a staff member who clearly finds the announcement unnecessary. She walks through the front drawing room at 11 in the morning, as if the building belongs to her, which, in the logic of her arrangement with Rhett, it one day will. Tall, slender, perfect posture, white pale skin, platinum blonde hair pinned up in an architectural coil, ice blue eyes. She is wearing an ivory structured coat and heels that cost more than Seryn's 3 months of wages. She stops in the center of the room, looks Seryn over once, completely, and says nothing for a moment. Then, one syllable, loaded to capacity. You're smaller than I expected, Isolde says. Her voice is perfectly modulated. They said he'd actually signed a selection card. I assumed there was something extraordinary. Seryn keeps her expression neutral. And there isn't, Isolde continues pleasantly. Which is interesting, don't you think? That Rhett would do something entirely unprecedented for something entirely ordinary. What do you want? Seryn says. Isolde tilts her head by precisely 3 degrees. I want you to understand your position, she says. Clearly, without embellishment, she sits in one of the drawing room chairs, as if she's been asked to. You are here for a reason I intend to find out, but while you are here, you will not mistake his attention for something it isn't. You will not mistake proximity for relevance. She smooths one sleeve. And when this is over, you will return to wherever you came from without complications. She stands, smiles. It does not reach her eyes. Welcome to the upper district, she says. I do hope it was worth the dress. She leaves. Seryn stands in the drawing room alone. She thinks about the smile. She thinks about the word when. And she thinks, Isolde Varn is afraid of something. On the morning of day 9, Rhett is gone. Not unusual for his schedule, she has observed his pattern of early departures and late returns, but by evening he has not returned. By the following morning the same. Cale moves through the house with the same professional calm but answers nothing with specificity. Unavailable is the full content of every response. Seryn uses the time. She is not idle in his absence. She has been waiting for a reduction in the house's rotation, and with Rhett gone there are small adjustments in how the staff operate. Small, but measurable. On day 2 of his absence she reaches Merrick. She sends a message through the house communication system, knowing it is monitored, and phrases everything in the language of a grocery request, code they established years ago for emergencies. Merrick responds within an hour. She reads his message in the library, a series of delivery item requests that translate to leave attempt inadvisable, something moving in the gala records. Dane Virelle has been making inquiries about your nomination file. Someone is looking for who placed you on the list, and it's not you. She stares at the words. Someone else is trying to find out why she was placed on the list, which means whoever placed her there is not the person asking, which means there are at least 3 parties involved in what should have been a simple, if brutal welfare selection. The person who nominated her, Dane Virelle, who coordinates the list, and Rhett, who took her before anyone else could. She sits in the library for a long time, rearranging what she knows. She has been thinking of this as something that happened to her. She is beginning to understand that may be wrong. She may have been moved towards something. The question is by whom? And whether Rhett Valcairn is a wall between her and the answer or part of it. He comes back on the 3rd night, after midnight. She knows because she has been sleeping lightly, she always does. And she hears the front door mechanism from 2 floors up. Footsteps on the stairs, unhurried but carrying weight. She does not go downstairs. But in the morning, at the kitchen's long counter when she comes down at 6, he is already there. You found the terrace, he says. She goes to the counter, pours coffee. You've been using it, he says. Good. You were gone 3 days without notice, she says. Yes. Cale wouldn't give specifics. No. She turns and looks at him over her cup. Is that something I should expect to continue? He looks at her. Something in his expression does what it did in the car that first night, that fractional shift, not toward warmth, but towards something that might be called honesty. Yes, he says. Probably. Then I need to know what I'm allowed to do in your absence, she says. Not what I'm not allowed, what I am. He is quiet for a moment. The terrace, he says. The library, the upper 2 floors, the kitchen. You can request outdoor access if you submit a time and a route the night before. Cale will arrange it. She processes this. That's not nothing, she says carefully. No, he agrees. It isn't. He picks up his device and leaves the kitchen. She stands at the counter in the gray early morning light and finds, with a clarity she doesn't enjoy, that she is angrier at the small concession than the larger constraint. because the small concession is harder to hate, and she needs to be able to hate this clearly and without complication. She finishes her coffee and goes upstairs before she thinks about it any further. Week 2. Seryn has been using her permitted library access for more than reading. The residence's internal network has limits. She found those quickly. But books have no firewall, and the private library of Rhett Valcairn is not a decorative feature. It is a working archive, legal texts, civil records, district histories, estate documentation. She has been reading the Civic Welfare Act in full, all 43 pages of it, and then the Civil War legislation attached to it. And then, because she finds things when she looks for them, an older document, a legal amendment filed 18 years ago, that revised the language of Section 4. Section 4. Secondary registration. She reads the revision language 3 times before the amendment. Secondary registration: the nomination of a lower district resident by a certified observer required to witnesses, a signed statement, and a civil review period. After the amendment, it required only one signatory with verified civic standing, and the review period was reduced. The amendment was filed by a legal firm. She writes down the firm's name. That evening, during an approved outdoor hour, she passes the piece of paper to Kale, who does not take it, because that is not what she expects, but holds it up briefly enough for the name to be visible, like she is reading notes, because she knows now that Kale is not just surveillance. He watches, and he processes, and occasionally things he processes find their way forward. He says nothing. She returns inside. 2 days later, a different book appears on the library shelf, placed face out, which nothing else on these shelves is. A civil law annotated volume, marked with a narrow slip at a specific page. She finds the page. The firm's name appears in a footnote. Historical case. 18 years ago. The client on record is a single name, Virelle. She has not left the Upper District since arriving, but Dane Virelle comes to the Upper District, not to the residence. She is informed of his visit in advance only because Kale mentions it with the specific neutrality of someone calibrating her preparation. Rhett has a meeting at the Valcairn Holdings Tower. She is not invited. She is not required to attend. She requests her outdoor hour for the same time window. Kale approves it. She is not going to the tower, but she is going to the street that runs alongside it, which she identified from the terrace view on day 6 as the exit Rhett's cars always use. She arrives there 7 minutes before the meeting ends. When Dane Virelle exits the building, she is sitting on a public bench. Across the street, one of the Upper District's calculated public spaces, all clean stone and clipped hedges that no one from the Lower District is ever found in plain view, doing nothing remarkable. He sees her immediately. He stops walking. She watches him go through a sequence of decisions in approximately 4 seconds. Assess, recognize, calculate, conclude. He crosses the street. He sits uninvited on the bench. He is exactly as she expected, up close, composed, silver, costly, the kind of dangerous that wears excellent shoes and files paperwork. Miss Halvane, he says pleasantly. You've been looking into my nomination file, she says. He doesn't flinch. A routine gala audit. Who nominated me? He looks at her with patient gray eyes. That information is confidential under gala protocol. Yes, she looks at him directly. Your name is on the civil amendment that enabled secondary registration 18 years ago, which means you know every mechanism by which a name can be placed on that list. You were placed on the list, he says carefully, by someone who should not have had access. She stares at him. I have been trying to find out who, he continues, his voice dropping slightly. Not for your benefit, because a breach of gala structure is a breach of my structure. He adjusts his cufflink. Rhett taking you was not random. He was informed in advance. By whom? I do not yet know. He stands. I'd advise you not to find out, he says. Not because the answer isn't available, but because it concerns things from before you were old enough to be on any list. He leaves. Seryn sits on the bench. before you were old enough. The city hums around her. She has been in this story for longer than she knew. She asks Rhett that evening, not the full question, she is not ready for that, and she does not yet trust that his answer would be complete. But she asks the edge of it. She finds him in the study after dinner. He is at the desk, a file open, pen in hand. He looks up when she enters without knocking and does not comment on it. She stands on the opposite side of the desk. "What do you know about my history?" she says. He sets down the pen. She watches him do it. "I know you have been in the lower district for 3 years, he says. "I know that before that your records are incomplete, amended," he pauses, "by someone who knew how to amend them properly." She holds this. "You knew before the gala," she says. "Before you signed the card." He doesn't answer. "That's a yes," she says. "It's complicated. Everything you say is complicated." Something in his expression moves. Not toward a smile, something drier and stranger than that. The recognition, maybe, of someone who knows he is being accurately read. "There are people in the city," he says slowly, "who manage certain kinds of information, certain kinds of people. People whose existence is useful to someone but inconvenient to someone else." He leans back in his chair. "When that usefulness changes, or when the inconvenience grows, those people become vulnerable in ways they don't always see in time." She stares at him. "You think that's what I am," she says. "I think that's what you were made to be," he says, "whether you know it or not. And you took me from the gala, why? To protect me from that?" He holds her gaze. "To put myself between you and whoever was planning to use your selection for something I couldn't allow," he says. "Yes." The fire in the study's small hearth cracks once. "Who are you protecting me from?" she says. He looks at her for a long moment. "I'm still working on that," he says. Cale finds her on the terrace the next morning. He does not normally seek her out. He monitors, he intercepts, he positions. But this morning he steps out onto the terrace at 7 a.m. with 2 cups of coffee and holds one toward her without making it a gesture. She takes it. Because she is cold and because she has learned by now that Cale Draveno communicates in data, not sentiment. He stands beside her at the balustrade. Below them, the upper district is waking. Cars beginning to move in their silent, careful lines, a light mist over the lower rooftops. He's been looking for the person who placed your name on the list for 7 months, Cale says. She keeps her gaze on the city. Before the gala, yes. He knew I was going to be on it, he suspected. When the confirmed list came through and your name was on it, he moved fast. Why does he care who nominated me? Cale is quiet for a moment. Because whoever nominated you wasn't doing it to select you. He says, they were doing it to get you killed. The naming selections aren't. Always, not every selector has good intentions. He pauses. Some girls from the lower district are taken into situations that aren't survivable quietly. The system is designed to make it invisible. Seryn is very still, and the person who nominated me, she says slowly, was sending me into one of those, into a specific one, with a specific selector who has made 2 girls disappear. In the last 4 years, he takes a sip of coffee. Rhett found out which selector your name was assigned to. 12 hours before the gala, he intervened by claiming me himself. Yes, she stands with this. The mist drifts below them. Cale, she says, why are you telling me this? He looks at her sideways. His expression doesn't shift. Because you're going to keep digging until you understand it, he says. And I'd rather you understand the version that's accurate. He takes his cup back inside. She stands on the terrace alone with the city at her feet and the weight of what she now knows settling into her chest like something permanent. She was not placed on that list by mistake. She was placed there to disappear. His name is Coran Vith. She finds it in the civil records section of the library, cross-referencing word contracts filed in the last 5 years. It takes her to days. She does not sleep much. Coran Vith, Upper District Business Affiliate, Civic Welfare Committee member, 3 selection contracts in cycles 14, 15, and 17. Two girls from cycles 14 and 15 have no current district record, no civil discharge from ward status, no civil complaints filed. They are simply not on any record anymore. She does not know what that means in specifics. She knows what it means in outcome. She brings the name to Rhett. He is in the kitchen when she comes downstairs with the printed civil record in her hand, slides it onto the counter in front of him, and watches his face. He looks at the paper. Something in the line of his jaw tightens. "You found him," he says. "You already knew." "Yes. You knew he was my assigned selector. You knew what happened to the girls in his previous cycles." "Yes." She has practiced staying calm. She has been practicing her whole life. "It is harder than usual right now. He is still a committee member," she says. "He is still on the Cycle 18 registration panel." "I know. You need to. I can't move against him in the open." His voice is low. "Not yet. The civil structure that protects him is the same structure that makes your ward contract valid. If I dismantle one, I dismantle the other. And if your contract dissolves without resolution, you have no legal protection." She stares at him. "You're using the contract to protect me from the contract." He looks at her. "Something like that," he says. She is quiet for a long time. "I want to be part of how this ends," she says. He holds her gaze. He does not say no. Merrick Sallow appears at the Upper District Delivery Entrance, a thing that should be impossible, given his district clearance level, which tells Seryn immediately that he used something he shouldn't have, called in a favor that cost more than it was worth, and is now terrified in the way of someone who has run out of time. Cale brings him to the drawing room. He stands there in his worn jacket, looking smaller in this space than he does in the amber back room of his exchange. Sallow pale skin, thinning graying hair, nervous brown eyes moving across the furnishings with the expression of someone who has just understood how different the two worlds truly are. Seryn sends Cale out of the room, which surprises her that she can do this. That Cale goes. "What happened?" she says. "Someone came to see me." His voice is thin. "2 nights ago. Not from the upper district car. Good clothes. Came alone. Asked about you." He swallows. "Not your current situation. Before. You came to Crestwick Lane. Before the records. I adjusted. Before." Seryn goes still. "What did you say?" "Nothing. I said I didn't know you." He runs his hand over his hair, but the way he asked, he already knew something. He was checking what I'd confirm. He looks at her. "Seryn, he asked about your mother." The room is very quiet. "He said her name," Merrick says quietly. "The real one." And he said, "The girl would want to know her file hasn't been fully erased." As if it was a message. As if he was sending you something through me. Seryn looks at him for a long time. "What is my mother's name?" she says. Because she has never known it. She was told the records were destroyed. She believed it because Merrick told her, and Merrick was afraid, and fear had always seemed like evidence. Merrick closes his eyes, and then he tells her. She finds Rhett in the study. He looks up and reads her face in 1 second. "Sit down," he says. She doesn't sit. She stands in front of his desk and says the name Merrick gave her. She watches Rhett's face. He doesn't look away. He doesn't close his expression. And that the fact that he holds it open is worse than if he had. "You know that name," she says. "Yes." "You knew who she was before the gala." "Yes." "And you knew what it meant for me." Silence. "Rhett, your mother worked within the gala structure," he says carefully. "Not by choice. She was placed into an arrangement 18 years ago, through the same mechanism that placed you last month. She found things she wasn't meant to find, about how the system was structured, about who designed it." He stops. "She tried to expose it." Seryn's hands are still at her sides. "She disappeared," she says. "Yes, and Dame Virelle was involved." Rhett says nothing, which is its own kind of answer. "And whoever placed me on the gala list," she says slowly, "was connected to what happened to her." "Yes, I believe so." "And you have been what?" "Investigating this for 7 months." Her voice is even. "A year?" using me as part of it without telling me what I was in the middle of. I took you from a situation that would have killed you, he says. That was first. The rest is my life, she says. My mother's life. You have been making decisions about my safety and my history and my future without telling me any of it. He doesn't flinch. Yes, he says. She stands there. She has every right to rage at this. She knows that. What she doesn't expect is the other thing, the thing underneath the anger, quieter and more dangerous. She doesn't expect to understand why he did it. She leaves before she has to. She needs a name, a real one. She goes back to the library and does not stop until she has it. The selector her mother was assigned to 18 years ago, the contract number, the civil filing date, and then the discharge record. Not a natural end of contract discharge. An administrative erasure available only under a provision that requires sign-off from 2 civic officials and 1 civil court judge. She writes down all 3 names, cross-references them with current positions. 1 is retired, 1 is deceased, 1 is still on the civil court bench. She takes the findings to Rhett the following morning and puts them in front of him without speaking. He reads through the page. Then he picks up his phone and makes a call. 1 call, brief. The name he uses on the call is not Cale's. Within the hour, Cale comes to find her with a name she didn't give him. The person who placed her on the gala list. She reads it. It is not Dane Virelle. It is not anyone she has heard of. It is a woman, an upper district name, the kind of name that appears in civic records as a donor, a patron, a committee member visible enough to be legitimate, positioned carefully enough to be unreachable. Who is she? Seryn says. Cale pauses. She was the last person to see your mother, he says. Seryn looks at the name. She placed me on the list, she says slowly, because she wanted me dead before I could find out why. Cale looks at her. Probably, he says. Which means she thinks I already know something. Or that you'll figure it out, he says. Given enough time in the right library with the right access. The silence holds. She looks down at the page. She's not wrong, Seryn says. It happens on a night when she lets her guard down. Not entirely, she does not let herself entirely down. Has not since she was old enough to understand the cost, but enough. It is late, the house is quiet. She has been reading for hours and the fire in the library has burned down to low amber, and she is, for the first time since arriving in the upper district, simply tired without the weight of active calculation pressing. On top of the tiredness, Rhett comes into the library around 11. He doesn't say anything. He pours 2 glasses of something from the cabinet and sets one on the table beside her without making it a gesture, the same way Cale handed her coffee without making it a kindness. She picks it up. He sits in the chair across from her and opens his own book, and they are, for a long stretch of time, simply in the same room reading. It is the most dangerous thing that has happened to her here, because she can feel it, the ease of it, the way the silence between them has stopped being the silence of captivity and started being something else entirely, something she does not have clean words for, the way he exists in a room, still, present, taking up space without apology. She finishes her drink, sets down her book. I need you to tell me the rest, she says. He looks up. The thing you haven't told me yet, she says. About why you've been looking for this for 7 months. About what your connection to my mother's story is. He looks at her for a long time, and then he sets down his own book. My father, he says, was one of the 3 officials who signed the erasure on her discharge record. The fire crackles. Seryn does not move. He's dead, Rhett says. 3 years ago, before he died, he left me a file. Partial, like he only had half of it. Like the other half was taken before he could retrieve it. He pauses. I've been building the second half since. She stares at him. You didn't take me from the gala only to protect me, she says slowly. No, I'm also part of the file. You're the last piece of it. The fire is very low now. She should be angry. She has every clean reason to be angry. What she is, instead, is something more complicated and more inconvenient than anger. She picks up both glasses and goes to refill them. Her mother's name was Lisa Keever. She was 23 years old when she was selected by the gala. She was smart. Lower district, and she was placed into an arrangement with a woman named Valcairn, the same name on the page in Kale's hands 3 days ago. Lisa Keever spent 8 months inside the upper district's inner circle before she found the contracts. Not ward contracts, older ones. Arrangement agreements from the first decade of the gala's operation, back when the civic welfare language hadn't yet been perfected. Agreements that said plainly what the system was designed to do: extract and erase. Remove lower district residents with unverifiable histories, children of certain people, heirs of certain estates, claimants to certain inheritances that the elite had absorbed over decades, before they could mature into legal knowledge of what they were owed. Lisa Keever had been one such claimant, and so is Seryn Halvane. Rhett lays all of this out on the study desk on a gray Thursday morning. Documents, civil records, partial inheritance filings from 22 years ago. The picture is not complete, it may never be complete, but the shape of it is unmistakable. Seryn's mother was selected to be disappeared because she was an heir to a civil trust that Valcairn's family had been quietly absorbing for 2 decades. Seryn, as Lisa's daughter, holds the same claim. She placed me on the list, Seryn says, because she found out I existed. Yes, the girls who disappear through the gala, the ones assigned to certain selectors. It's not all of them, Rhett says. Most of the selections are genuinely what they claim to be, but for specific cases, girls with inheritance exposure, girls with legal risk to elite holdings, the gala is used as a disposal mechanism. He pauses. My father helped design that mechanism, and then spent the rest of his life trying to take it apart, quietly enough not to be killed for it. Seryn looks at the documents. And you're finishing what he started, she says. And now, he says quietly, so are you. She looks up at him. For the first time in the upper district, in the residence, in all the weeks of careful observation and controlled distance, and red flags she has been cataloging, like field notes, she looks at him without calculation. He looks back. Something between them settles. Not an ending, not a beginning. Something that has always been the truest kind of complicated. Two people holding opposite ends of the same thread, finally standing close enough to see the whole of it. Isolde Varn does not take the news gracefully, but she takes it correctly. Rhett ends the political engagement on a Wednesday afternoon in the drawing room. Seryn is not there, she is on the terrace, because she is not the kind of person who needs to witness other people's endings to feel secure in her own position, but she hears the front door close with the particular firmness of something final. And an hour later, Rhett comes to the terrace and stands beside her at the balustrade. He doesn't explain. She doesn't ask. Kale has found the civil judge, he says. She turns. The last of the 3 who signed the erasure on your mother's discharge. He looks out over the city. He's agreed to a deposition. On record. He's afraid, she says, of what's already moving. Yes. He pauses. The Valcairn case won't be quiet. It will move through the civil court system. It may take months. It will be contested, blocked, refiled. This city doesn't give these things up easily. But it will move, she says. Yes. She looks at the city below, the upper district in afternoon light, glass and architecture, and all its careful, costly silence. When it's done, she says carefully, the ward contract dissolves. Yes. And I would be free to go back to the lower district, or anywhere else. Yes, he says, not quickly, deliberately. She looks at him. He looks back. But you're not going to tell me to stay, she says. No. She turns back to the city. Good, she says. I wouldn't if you did. Silence. I know, he says. And somehow that is the most honest thing either of them has managed. It takes 6 weeks. Seryn is not a passive observer of those 6 weeks. She is in the civil records office 3 days a week under her own name, filed as a witness in residence, which is a legal category that exists precisely for people like her, people whose testimony is required to dissolve illegal contract structures. She files statements, she cross-references, she builds a paper case with the same methodical precision she applied to the lower districts, laundry counter and filing hall, except now the stakes are the difference between a system that continues to erase people and one that doesn't. Karanvid's committee membership is suspended after the 2nd week. By the 4th week, his ward contracts are under civil review. By the 5th week, he is the subject of a formal erasure investigation, the same legal category he helped use on others, now returned to him through the machinery he thought was his alone. He is not imprisoned yet, but he is visible. In Virelle Haven, visible is the beginning of the end. Dane, Virelle resigns from the gala committee quietly and without explanation in week 5. Seryn notes this from the civil register update and feels something she might call satisfaction if she were being generous with herself. The civil judge's deposition is filed on a Tuesday morning and enters the public record by afternoon. By evening, the name Lisa Keever appears, for the first time in 18 years, in a legally registered civil document. Seryn reads it sitting at the library desk. She does not cry. She has not cried yet, and she does not know if she will. But she sits with her mother's name in her hands for a very long time. Rhett appears in the doorway at some point. He doesn't come in. He simply stands there, in the way he has always stood still, present, undemanding, and she does not ask him to leave. The woman who ordered her mother's disappearance is 71 years old. Seryn meets her once briefly, deliberately, on the steps of the civil court on the morning the inheritance case is formally entered into proceedings. She does not arrange this meeting. It simply happens, the way certain things happen. When a city finally runs out of room to keep two people apart, Valcairn is not what Seryn imagined. She is small, white pale skin gone to parchment, silver hair cut close, a cane with an ivory handle she doesn't lean on heavily, eyes that are still sharp, still calculating, still the eyes of someone who has spent 5 decades making decisions from a position of untouchable comfort. They look at each other on the steps for 3 seconds. Seryn does not speak. Valcairn's expression does not soften. "You look like her," she says. Her voice is thin but precise. Seryn keeps her face still. "That's all I'll say," the old woman says. Her lawyer takes her arm and moves her past and up the steps. Seryn stands on the pavement below. "You look like her." She doesn't know if it was cruelty. She doesn't know if it was the closest thing to remorse available in a woman who had built her entire life on the certainty that some lives were expendable. She doesn't care which. What she knows is this: she was supposed to be erased. She was not. She is standing on the steps of a civil court in Virelle Haven in the early morning light, her mother's name in an active proceeding, a case that will outlast whatever either of them feel about it, and she is still here. That is enough. For now, it is enough. The ward contract dissolves on a Friday. It is not dramatic. A civil clerk emails a notice. Seryn prints it and holds it for a moment, and then sets it on the kitchen counter. She was always going to leave. She packs what she came with, which is almost nothing, and the few books she asked about taking and was told were hers. Without a second's hesitation, she arranges to stay with someone in the mid-district, a woman who runs a small legal aid office, who has been following the Valcairn case and offered Seryn a room and part-time work without being asked. Real work, work with her name on it. Rhett is in the study when she brings her bag downstairs. She stops at the doorway. He is at the desk. He looks up. She looks at him, actually looks at him, the way she has learned to over weeks of observing. The set of his shoulders, the way he is never quite relaxed but is occasionally, in certain rooms, less armored than in others. The steel blue eyes that were cold in the gala hall and became something else entirely by increments. She didn't track until they had already happened. "I'll be following the case," she says. "I know." He pauses. "I'll be building it." She nods. She starts to leave. "Seryn." She turns. He looks at her with the same open, stripped-back gravity she has seen twice before, once at the desk and once in the library's low fire, and says nothing for a moment, which with him means more than most people's sentences. "You know where I am," he says. She holds that. "Yes," she says, "I do." She leaves through the front door. The city opens around her, the upper district street with its clean pavement and its cold light, and beyond it, somewhere below, the lower district and its borrowed light and all, the names still waiting to be found. She walks. 3 months later, the Valcairn civil case is in its second proceeding. Karan Viv is formally charged. The administrative erasure provision is under legislative review, the first time in Virelle Haven history that the mechanism has been challenged from the inside. It will not fix everything. It will not fix quickly. The city is old and its structures are patient and they bend before they break, but they are bending. Seryn works at the legal aid office for days a week. She files documents and reads civil code and occasionally testifies at preliminary hearings, always in the same voice, the same stillness, the quiet she developed as camouflage that has become, slowly and entirely without announcement, a form of power. She has a room, small, real, her name on the door. On a Tuesday evening, she receives a message, not coded, not routed through a house system, just a message from a number she has in her phone that says, "The third deposition has been scheduled. The judge is ours. I thought you should hear it first." She reads it standing at her window overlooking the mid-district street. Below, the city does its usual things, moves, breathes, decides who rises and who disappears. It has been doing this for 200 years. It will keep trying. She types back. When? The reply comes in under a minute. "Thursday, I'll send a car if you want one." She smiles. She types, "I'll take the transit." She puts her phone down and looks out the window at Virelle Haven, not with longing, not with fear, with the particular clarity of someone who understands what the city is made of and has decided, specifically and without apology, to remain inside it until it bends enough. She was not supposed to be here. She was supposed to disappear before she ever became someone who could fight back. She is not going to disappear. Her name is Seryn Halvane. She was placed on a list. She walked off it, and she is just getting started.
Welcome to Elite Divide, where wealth is the weapon, where love is the gamble, and where the divide between worlds is never just money. Don't forget to click the subscribe button